2 of our Christmas feast prep thing. Earlier today, we prepped up some of our food earlier. We prepped up, this is our green bean casserole. It's almost finished. Our apple crisp, which will be ready to bake up. Our sweet potato casserole that we'll bake up. And then our mac and cheese. Now this setup here is for my friends that they're going to pick up and they'll have tomorrow. But we have ours over there waiting to go into the oven to bake up for the final part. We've got our prime rib roasts in the oven finishing off. We'll be taking those out in a few minutes. We've got some potatoes boiling for our mashed potatoes. And then we are going to be cooking up our caramelized carrots and onions and our Brussels sprouts and bacon. So let's get our Brussels sprouts and bacon going for that because we want the bacon to crisp up. I do have my onion straws, my second batch or third batch actually, finishing up on here, which we will be putting in our green bean casserole because when I make my green bean casserole, I make everything from scratch. Nothing is pre-made. That's the same homemade cream of mushroom soup, and my husband stole an onion straw that I literally just took out of the grease, out of the oil, and it is very, very hot. What he gets for stealing them. The first batch had already cooled, but I had put them in our casserole over there. Okay, we've got our bacon right here. I'm going to snip it up, and then we're going to crisp it up, and where they'll cook our Brussels sprouts in the bacon grease with the crispy little bits of bacon. So I'm just going to use my kitchen shears, snip it up, and let it start to kind of crisp up, and then we can throw in our Brussels sprout that I have kind of chopped up, kind of quartered so that they all crisp up nicely for it. We've got our sourdough bread that is about to come out of the oven, and then I can turn my oven down to 350 degrees to bake up the rest of everything else. So we're kind of on the final stretch. Oh, and I'll be making a quick little gravy to go with the mashed potatoes because my daughter firmly believes that mashed potatoes have to be served with gravy. They can't be by themselves. Must have gravy. So we'll have that. We'll take our roast out here in just a second, let it kind of sit. I have it sitting in the oven right now with the oven off, but that residual heat, keeping it nice and warm. But then we will take it out to let it sit to cool. And we have 2 big rib roasts, prime rib roasts. Again, one's for us tonight and one's for my friends. Again, the nice thing about the rib roast is it actually reheats really, really well. You just kind of reheat it at like 200 degrees on your oven until it's fully warm, just like you do with ham. And it stays really moist and tender, doesn't get overcooked. So it's one of those ones that it does work really well. Okay, I feel like I've been snipping this bacon forever. But we are down. Do a couple random snips now. We'll go wash my hands. We can get that going. Okay. And I'm going to turn this on to start heating over, like 5 or 6, kind of get it to cook up. And I'll do it a little higher and then we'll turn it down on there. Let's see if our onions need flipping yet. I have them cooking up here. This is our third batch here. So not quite, you know what? We're pretty good here. So let's flip a couple more. Look at that. I always say the first batch turns out the absolute best because a little bit of the dredging gets collected in there, but these are all crisping up very nicely. Yeah. And then this is what we have on our pan is actually the second batch because the first batch I already have in the green bean casserole that we're going to be eating tonight. And this is, you know how like typical green bean casserole has those like French's onion straws on it? Well, I like to make mine homemade, and then we use fresh green beans, and I make a homemade cream of mushroom soup, which we did on our earlier stream.
And what did you dredge them in?
So this is a mixture of, so first you make a dredge, which is flour, and then I seasoned it with Italian seasoning, onion powder, and garlic, salt, black pepper. And then you kind of coat them up, and then I cracked some eggs over it, mixed that all in there, and then I took the second half of the dredge, added about a cup of seasoned panko breadcrumbs, and then put those in there. And that gives them that nice extra crunch to them. There we go. we've got our beautiful sourdough here. Baking up, we'll transfer that out. And then I've got to turn my oven down to a 350. I'm going to, there we go. Hope the door open a little bit, let some of that heat out, because the oven always need to bring it down so it's hotter, but I want it to cool off a little. There we go. So 350, because we're going to pop those in here in just a second. So let's get our sourdough on a cutting board and resting on there.
Do you have to cook the green beans before you add them to the casserole?
So you want to blanch them. So it's not a full cooking. You pop them in boiling water for a few minutes until they're very vibrant and green. And then you will take them out. And then I have made them cream of mushroom soup and everything for it. Let me get my oven mitt back on. There we go. I tried to do kind of like a Christmas tree, like one of those little arboreta tree design, but it looked too much like a feather. But I tried to do it. It's a little bit harder on the round ones. It's easier to make a Christmas tree. This is like one of those long, tall trees, an arboreta on there. Close. Okay. Let's get some tongs out here for my bacon. Kind of spread it apart. Now that it's kind of heating up, once that kind of crisps up, I'm going to check my potatoes here and see if they're soft and ready for it. So let's see. I think we got all of them flipped over. Yeah. It's kind of hard to see when you get to a couple second, third batches. You have a little bit more of this kind of foamy because you have less oil and more flour in it. So it's a little bit harder to see your bake on it, but we're pretty good there. So what we can do with this first batch here while we're waiting is I've got my green bean casserole with my cream of mushroom soup. I'm going to give it a quick toss. You can see that homemade cream of mushroom soup full of sauteed mushrooms as well. Toss it up. And then what I like to do is I add some of my green bean or my crispy onions into the base of my green bean casserole, and then the rest go on top. But it adds a nice texture and crunch for when it goes in. So making sure I get all these little crispy straws to go in there as well. And then the rest will go over the top. But I'm going to mix this in, and it just adds so much flavor and texture, I feel. It just makes it so nice so it's not mushy. I like also, again, the fresh green beans add, again, great texture to it. And I feel like once you've had green bean casserole this way, it's going to be really hard to go back to, like, I want to say it's like the retro version, the one that's been made since like the 1950s. We'll start sprinkling some of these onion straws over. And that way, when we take the second out, we'll let them kind of cool and soak up a little bit of their oil on there. Okay, let's check our potatoes. I'm going to get a nice spoon, kind of find a big one and press it through. And if my fork goes through it, then I'm going to know that we're ready for mashing. Ooh, looks like we're just about perfect. So I'm going to turn this off. I've got about 5 to 6 big russet potatoes in here, peeled, cubed, and then because today is a special day, I rinsed my water twice with the potatoes in it so that it gets rid of as much of that potato starch, which is going to leave you the fluffiest mashed potatoes. So let me strain these, and then we can start to put our rest of our casseroles in the oven now that it's been a minute for the oven to kind of cool down a little. Okay. Give it a good shaky shake. Pop those back on there. And then I'm going to take my butter, and we're going to stick it. Let me make sure my back burner's off. Yep. We're going to stick our butter into the base of this let it melt. And I'm going to do, since I have a bit more than I normally do, I'm going to add a little bit more butter. There we go. We're going to let it melt completely before we whip it up. Let me wash my hands here. We also need to give a little drizzle of cream in there. If you wait until your butter is melted and your cream is warmed up, it gives you a fluffier mashed potato than to whip it when it's cold. So good mix around, we'll let it warm up. Check my onion straws here, and then we can, yep, perfect. There we go. And you can see by the end, you get a little bit more crispy bits. If you have to do any more than 3 rounds, then you're gonna need to completely change your oil out. Turn off my burner here. But we're gonna put them on our paper towel, let it absorb up the rest of this kind of oil, and then we'll put them on top of our green bean casserole. And as they cool, they will crisp up and get that nice crunch. And this is a nice thing because I'm gonna bake up ours tonight, but tomorrow all they have to do is bake their casserole at 350 for about 20 minutes, enough to heat up everything inside and cook those green beans a little bit more. And it will be just as good as if you had it today. It actually holds together really well. Okay. Here, I think we've got this all in there. Okay, let me give our bacon a little stir, and then we are going to go and pop everything in the oven over here, so that those will be all ready to bake up and have with our dinner here, because we're on the home stretch. Okay, let me grab I don't even need oven mitts for these because they're not too hot. Have our oven nice at 350. So here is our mac and cheese. We're going to bring our mac and cheese in. This is with 2 types of cheddar cheese. We made a Mornay sauce, tossed the noodles in, and then added shredded cheese and breadcrumbs tossed in. Here is our green bean casserole going in. That's with our fried onion straws on it. And last but definitely not least, we have a sweet potato casserole with some candied pecans on it and some marshmallows. I like to do mine a little bit lighter on the marshmallows, so it's not so sweet. But the one that I'm making for my friend is completely covered on it, so it's there. I'm going to put this in here, and we'll do it for about 20 minutes. And all of that should be just about ready. Tonight after dinner, we're going to have our gingerbread, our tomte cake decorating one. So instead of a gingerbread house, we have a tomte cake. One of these has the tomte in it. I happen to know because we had 6, but sweet little Jackie came up while I was working on the puzzle. And I think, my husband was in the other room, and all of a sudden we turn around and there's him sitting on the couch with one whole tomte house in his hand, eating it. And he happened to have the one tomte house with the tomte in it. And so I quickly took it and I hid it in the bottom of one. We luckily still have 5 houses, 1 for each kid. So we have our decorating contests, and then, my family votes on it, and then the winner wins a prize. We were thinking whoever won might get to open up a present early. So that's a big, exciting point for it. Okay, we're going to use this pan to cook up our things. So I'm just going to clean out a little bit of this oil and bits for it. So I just take my paper towel in there and kind of do it this way. Soak up the remaining grease and bits, and then I can kind of pour it to the side. But I only have so many big pans, and I don't want to go smaller on it. There we go. So we've got our nice hot grease. And I'll get rid of this. But this is a really easy way to clean up your thing. And then you just need a quick rinse out. And then I'll wipe it down one more time, and then I'll have a nice clean pan to use for my carrots. Less dishes, and that's always a win. Okay. Let's get our onions cooking up for our caramelized carrots and onions. Let me grab my oil out. Now with this, I use a mixture of oil and butter, but I start my onions off in oil because I can cook them at a little higher temperature. And then it just kind of allows them to caramelize up a little bit nicer. And then when I add my butter in towards the end to make the nice kind of brown sugar glaze sauce for them. So let's top these in. Good amount of onions because I love lots of onions with my caramelized onions and carrots. It just makes them taste so much better. We'll break this apart, kind of coat them up. Here. Down with that part. Let's get our bacon over here, kind of flip it over. Once it gets to a kind of a semi-crisp, I don't like it to be too firm or crunchy because it gets harder and harder the longer you cook it with the Brussels sprouts. But a chewy crispness, then I'll throw in the Brussels sprout leaves. But make sure you cook it there till it's rendered down most of its fat and it's kind of got that nice mix between a crispy and a chewy. If you go all the way crispy, by the time you're done cooking the restaurants, then they'll be hard bits. So don't overcook them. Let's get our onions. And then I think I'm ready to put the rest of these on the top of my casserole now that it's had a chance to soak up some of that extra oil. And this is, again, where it's at. I've been told... Time to retire that spatula. I used it a lot today. You know how many utensils I go through in this house? I haven't told you, I'm a little rough on my utensils here. I've been told and instructed by the cameraman that we must reserve a small bowl as the cameraman tax since there's no cheese to be had, at least this round. So I'll get these going. I think that should suffice. He does know that we have he's like a little more here. One tasty morsel left for you. And then we'll put the rest over the top, including all of these little crumbs because those just add an extra little crunch and they are just so delicious. And beautiful. We'll add this to our next kind of grouping of our finished, semi-finished products that all you have to do is bake for 20 to 30 minutes and you're done. We can be rid of this. And another spot cleared. It's always nice when you get down to the final and it's less and less dishes, but there's our green bean casserole. This is our apple crisp with 13 apples in it, a nice crisp topping. Our sweet potato casserole with candied pecans, and then our 2-cheese mac and cheese with a nice kind of panko breadcrumb on top. And then, of course, our sourdough that we'll be eating up tonight.
You have a question? Do you cook for your friend every Christmas?
I do not. She lost her partner about a month and a half ago. And so I'm kind of, making it a little bit easier for her for the holidays. But the funny thing is I had a different friend last year that I ended up cooking Christmas and Eve and Christmas dinner for because she had had surgery like 3 days before and she couldn't move. And so I cooked up the whole little feast for them so that they would have a really nice Christmas dinner and Christmas thing on there. But normally I do not. But it's just kind of, when people are in need, I like to try to get out and help them. Okay, we've got our wonderful, smells so good. Onions caramelizing. I got my bacon here. Since we're kind of on the last 20 or so minutes here, let's get our meat out of the oven so it can sit and rest so that you don't want to cut into your roast when it's hot because if you do, all of the juices fall out. So I got to find where I put my oven mitts. They're around here somewhere. Here they are. You'd be surprised. I have so many pairs because when I'm cooking, they're in all sorts of random spots. Okay. Here are our prime rib roasts. They've been cooking for about 2.5, 3 hours now. We seared them off in the beginning at 450 after we coated them up with garlic, sage, rosemary, and thyme, garlic salt, black pepper, and a little oil base to them on here. But they are, one is a 10-pound roast and one is a 9-pound prime rib roast on here. We'll let them sit in there, but what the nice thing about these roasts is if you have people who like meat cooked at different temperatures, the outside ones are your more like medium or well done, and then you get to the middle, and your middle is more of your medium rare or the big chunk, which is what we really love in here. But don't cut into it right away. Let it sit at room temperature and for 10 to 20 minutes before you're ready to serve. It's going to stay nice and hot for a long time. And then if you are going to pre-bake a roast like we did for our friends, let it come completely to room temperature, pack it up, and then when you reheat it the next day, tent it with a little bit of aluminum foil, pop it in your oven at 200 for about like 1 to 2 hours to really bring it up to it. Or you can slice it, pre-slice it, put it out on a tray, and then heat it up at 350 for about 20 minutes. So you have two options if you want the pretty carving option or the other one.
Question, how long at 450?
450 for 30 minutes, and then you're going to drop it down to either 350 or 325, depending how long you want it to cook. 325 buys you an extra like 30 minutes. 350, it saves you a little time. And it's based on kind of your how much meat you have. So it's about 10 minutes per pound after that initial sear off, give or take. But again, always use your thermometer to check the internal temperature so that you have it at whatever setting you want it cooked at. We love a nice medium rare here, so that's kind of what our best is. And then when you roast it, make sure when you do this, you roast it with the fat side up so that as it cooks, the fat renders down into the meat, making it very succulent and tender and delicious. Okay, let's add our carrots in. So I've got rainbow carrots that I kind of quartered up. We're going to add these into our onions that are kind of nice and got a good caramelization on it. Give them a nice toss up. Man overboard. And then we're going to put our lid on here to let it steam cook for a few minutes. That's going to make them tender. And then we'll add in some butter and brown sugar and a little bit of garlic salt for that final kind of touching up on it. Okay. And now I don't like to have all of my grease in here when I throw in these Brussels sprouts. So just take your bacon, kind of push it over to the side, and then just kind of like we did the cleanup with the like the oil from the onions, we're going to use this. But let me first get my lid on there so that can start steam cooking. There we go. Slide this on. Make sure I have it all down there. And then we're going to tint this for, just like we did with our onion straws, it just kind of coats it up and you get a little bit less in there. There we go. Now this is going to be hot, but we can take a good amount of this grease out. You don't have to pour it, in another bowl. You can just suck it up with a paper towel. And just because you don't want to have all of it in there when you cook up, otherwise it's going to make for really greasy Brussels sprouts. There we go. And then we're going to whip up our mashed potatoes, but I like to leave them sitting like this until they're warm. Once you whip them, they'll cool down faster, but if you keep them in this base thing, it keeps them nice and warm. Okay, looks like we've got a good amount of this oil out. Or I should not say oil, bacon grease, but that's what makes it taste so good. And then we've got our bacon at this mix between a crispy and a chewy. That's like the happy one, because if you do too crispy, your bacon will be like rock hard by the time your Brussels sprouts. And you can hear them sizzling as we pop them in there. Just make sure you stir around and coat up each little Brussels sprout with that remaining bacon grease. Beautiful. I'll coat this around. Perfect. And we'll mix it here. I realize I meant to save some of that warm, starchy water for our gravy, but I'm just going to turn my sink on and let it heat up, and we'll use that to make the base of our gravy. Same difference, except that water was already hot. Okay. Now that we have them coated, just spread them out, and we'll let them kind of scissor on things. But as you see, I kind of cut them into, ooh, they're jumping now. I'm going to turn my temperature down to about a 4 on there. Smells so good. So good. Okay, let's do our first whip up on our mashed potatoes. Slide this over here. This is going to be for gravy in just a second. This is where I need more space. Okay. Let's get our whisks in.
Have you ever requested, can you show them a Thompson cake and just go over the
Yes.
tradition of it?
Yes, I can. Let me see if we're close to this. Okay, perfect. Let me fill this up and then I can turn that off. For it, I'll grab a Thompson cake. It comes in these little, you make 2 per batch, like they're 2 little houses. I'll grab them. But it is they're so much easier to decorate than gingerbread houses. So this is our tomte cake. It is kind of just like a mild gingerbread spice cake on here. You have these cute little ridges around it, which is really great for piping in the frosting. The kids can stick all of their candy on there. I'll make a buttercream, like a rich buttercream frosting to go on here. But the kids can decorate it, but they don't have to worry about their gingerbread or like house falling apart. So at the end, it looks just like a gingerbread house, just a little bit easier. And then one of these cakes has a little metal tomte in it. It's about this big. And when they go to open up, because these taste actually really good, they're better than like a gingerbread cookie house. Nobody eats those anyways. But inside is little metal tomte. Whoever gets it gets good luck for the year, because tomtens typically are the ones who watch out for you. They're like little people who live in your walls in Sweden that take care of your, turn off the light when you've forgotten it, shut the door, all of those little things to kind of take around. And so you have them, and whoever gets it gives you extra good luck for it. Now, I don't know if I count little Jackie as already getting it this year, because he stole a Thompson cake after it, and I still can't believe it. He just reached up there and grabbed the whole Thompson cake off the counter and was happy as can be sitting on the couch, just eating away, and he happened to find the one that had the Thompson, so I took the Thompson out and I put it in the bottom of another one so the kids, won't notice. Hopefully they'll still have a chance to find it. But you pop it in there during the baking process, and they just pop out so nicely. Okay, we've got that flipped here. Let's get this whipped up. Let me grab a little trivet to put under this. And I'll sprinkle a little salt in, and then we'll test it. I'll probably add in some more cream, but I just like to start with a little bit first, because you never quite know how starchy your potatoes are and how much liquid you're going to need. There we go. So we're going to break them around, and then I'm going to add in some more cream because they're still need a little bit more love. But we're almost to that perfect good whip. So you can see how hot they still are, steaming off, which is why you wait till the end to kind of do them. We're going to add in our cream. We're going to let it heat up, warm up in that potato mixture until it's nice and hot, and then we'll be ready to pop it in there. Okay, let's get our gravy going. I'm going to try to figure out, there we go, this. Trying to make sure I can get them cooking all at the same time. That's a problem with small, you know, it's not a small, it's a regular size, but not as big. Let's get our butter melting we're gonna make a roux base for our gravy. So do about 2 to 3 tablespoons. I'm gonna turn on my back burner, kind of let it melt up just a little bit. Let's get this. That's my front burner. There. Okay, that should be good. Okay, here we've got our prime rib roast. They're resting now on there. I'm going to try to get a little bit of that flavor stuff out to add into the base of our gravy as well. Not too much because it has a bit of flavor, you know, it can be a bit intense if we're using it.
Two-part question. How much butter do you go through in a typical week? What about this week?
Oh, okay. In a typical week, I would say we go through, we don't need all of this liquid, like 3 pounds of butter, I would say. Not quite a 4-pack from Costco, but close. And that just depends on, like, you know, if I did a good, you know, my regular amount of baking in there. This week I have gone through, you don't want to know, it's so bad, like 10 to 15 pounds of butter. I have gone through, that's 10 to 15 pounds of butter. I mean, just the other day we made cookies and I used 2 pounds of butter on stream for that. So a good amount, but I don't normally do all of this baking on there, but a good amount. Okay, let's mix in our beef bouillon here. I'm going to use up the rest of this into it. This is going to help make the base for our gravy. I'm going to dissolve a little bit. Let's give this a good toss. Perfect. And you see they're kind of toasting up. This is what I want on there, the little leaves, to get a nice little toasting in there. Crisps them up, adds a great flavor. Beautiful. We've got our carrots here. They're getting nice and tender. You can see as I move them, they're a lot more flexible, which means they're getting to that nice, tender, crisp stage where they still have a good firmness to them, but they're tender all the way through. And that's what I like them. I don't want them mushy. I don't want them hard. That tender, crisp is the perfect way. Once they get there, then we'll add a pat of butter in here, some brown sugar, and a little bit of garlic salt. To the base, let's go check everything in our oven and see how that's looking. See if it's ready to come out. And if it is, then we'll get some trivets over here and going. Sometimes it needs a little bit more on here, but I think we are pretty close to coming out. I'm going to drop this guy down underneath, give him a little less direct heat. We've got our marshmallow, or our mac and cheese, and everything is just about ready. I'm going to give it 5 more minutes. I want it to be a little bit crisper. Do 5 minutes, and hopefully I'll have everything else done right around that time, and then we'll be able to kind of go through everything. Let's do a quick whip of our mashed potatoes on here. There we go. Now they're getting nice and light and fluffy. Beautiful. Perfect. Those are perfect. Okay. Let's get our roux going for our gravy. So I need a little bit of flour. So we had about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour in there, or butter in there. So we're going to do about the same with flour, kind of equal parts. Make a nice kind of paste, and then we'll add in our little bouillon, our beef bouillon, and water, and then a little bit of my secret ingredient, which is Kitchen Bouquet, which just gives it a nice color and a little bit of a roasted flavor to it. Let's mix this up. There we go. We're gonna let it heat and kind of cook for just a little bit to add a little bit of richness to this.
Well, what's the green in the pan?
This is Brussels sprouts that we've kind of chopped up, so they get a little bit nicer. They're less bitter when you chop them up and can cook them. So we'll have that with our bacon, which again complements the Brussels sprouts so nicely. We're cooking them up in some of that residual bacon grease.
Bacon compliments everything.
Yes, it really does. So we've got our good bacon here. We've got our caramelized, well, right now we've got our carrots and onions sauteing, but we're going to add in some brown sugar and butter here to make a nice little slightly sweetened sauce. I don't add too much because I like it very mildly sweet. But I think we're done with that lid. It's gotten to the carrots to the perfect point. So I'm going to slide this over here. We're going to add a little pat of butter into the middle of this. That way when it mixes with that brown sugar, it adds just a nice bit of flavor. There we go. Now I'm going to go grab my brown sugar because I guess I put it away. And I need just a splash of it. I'm going to turn this down. I guess it is at a 4. And we want kind of just about a tablespoon or so of brown sugar. Not a lot, but just a little bit to enhance the natural sweetness in the onions and the carrots.
Do you use salted butter?
Yes, always salted butter in this house. I always feel like when you have unsalted butter, something's missing. Okay, we've got this. Here we're going to add in our mixture of our beef bouillon and a little bit of our water. I'm just going to give it a good stir. Little by little, add it in. You don't want to just flood it up because you want it to thicken up fairly nicely. And then make sure I get all of that little bouillon bits in there. Mix that here. I'm going to turn this down nice and low. We'll add our little bit of garlic salt to this and a little bit of garlic salt to our carrots because those together make a really, really lovely flavor. The garlic salt just enhances the sweetness of this, but it doesn't make it too salty or sweet. Okay. Add a little bit more. And then the way to give yourself a really rich color to your gravy without having to use a ton of like additional bouillon, Kitchen Bouquet. It's like a browning sauce. It's like roasted veggies. A small bit is going to give you the nice, beautiful, rich color that you want with that roasted flavor in there, which is just lovely. And then we're going to stir up our carrots and onions here. I'm going to actually get a second one so I don't transfer anything. Beautiful. Beautiful. And we have a rainbow carrots in here, so we have a mixture of yellow, white, purple. And it's kind of perfect timing because we're about ready to grab our stuff out of the oven too. Okay. Let me turn this back burner down nice and low so that when we come back, I'll be ready to add a little bit more in that base for it, for our gravy. Let's go grab the rest of those stuff out of the oven. Beautiful. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna have to make a couple trips with this. We've got our sweet potato casserole with our candied pecans. Pop it right over here. We're running out of space fairly quickly. Or we'll slide this over and then get another little trivet for our next one. Which is our green bean casserole with our homemade mushroom gravy. And then I'm going to get one more trivet here to use on our last one. which is our homemade mac and cheese with 2 types of cheddar cheese, a sharp white cheddar and a sharp orange cheddar. Adds just great flavor to it. And let's get our last little bit of here. And this is essentially our feast. Now, let's set the table and we'll clean it up nicely. But as you can see, we are going to be eating well tonight. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page and search for what we made. So this is our Christmas feast, part 1 and 2. And you can watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. So it has like my knives, my cutting boards, my roasters, all the different things I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here.